You guys are, I believe I have people. If you are here, please let me see you in the chat box. Drop something in the chat box. Let me know you are here. Good evening, you are welcome. Welcome to class. Okay, where did we stop in the? I think we are meant to go to. Okay, yes, we are in research techniques, and I want someone to remind me the exact place we stopped in the last class. I know we are in this part of the material under research techniques, the techniques you need for doing a proper research project. But I am not certain if we have done sources of information, types of information source, rather sources. I'm yes, I need someone to remind me the place we stopped. You may need to refer to the last video we did. Francis Azianka, you're welcome. Mm. Yes, I'm waiting for you guys. Where did we stop? Okay, primary source of information. Thank you. You have been following. So that means, wait, let's get it clear. Have we, excuse me, have we done the primary source, or we just got there and stopped? So we are meant to start with primary source, or we are going to secondary source? Yes, which one? Okay, thank you. So we are going to secondary source. So what can you remember in primary source? What is the main thing what is your own, what was your take home in the class? What is the main thing you learned under primary source? Let's discuss a bit before we enter the class. Yes, I am waiting patiently. Okay, as Yanka says, primary source is the first formal appearance of result to be in print. It could be in print or electronic form. Thank you, Azianka. In fact, I think I will reward Azianka someday. You are you are doing well. Of format. Okay, that's not bad. So let's get to business somehow, somehow. It seems you guys are the listing is even too poor. It's too poor. It's too poor. It's too poor. So I think it's like you guys are not ready for class tonight. What's wrong? Or is the timing not proper for class? I had to put some things in place before the class. Anyways, anyone that feels like joining should join. Let's go to secondary source of information. Let me see how much details we have here before we start anything. How much details do we have here? Okay, it's not much. Then we have tertiary source. In fact, we are almost done here. We are almost done with this. It's not that bulky. It's not like some of those your courses of 200 pages. So I don't even see a reason why we need to rush it. Anyways, let's start something serious tonight. You've learned primary source. And when we talk about primary source, we are talking of information that comes from a contact with the event, like with the source, somebody who is an eyewitness, someone who was there, not they told me. If it's they told me, it's no longer primary source. Not I bought this book and I read it from this book. No, 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 that is not primary source. So the person who wrote the book, stating his experience with some matters or some situation, that is the primary source. Now, what of secondary source? What can we say on secondary source? Secondary sources of information are created from primary sources of information. Secondary sources of information are created from primary sources of information. Let me ask you an example. Sorry, for something. I will drop an icebreaker one, but I also want to ask us a question. Can you give me an example of something that is gotten from something? Like one thing that was produced from another thing, and each of them can stand individually. Yes, let's interact. What do you think can stand alone, but we can also get something out of it? What can stand alone, but we can get something out of it? What can stand alone and we can also get something out of it? Okay. So our class captain said secondary of information are created from primary sources of information. Likewise, Francis Azianka said secondary of information are created from primary sources of information. I feel like stoning some people. Talabi Esther said secondary of information are created from primary sources of information. I want to stone some people tonight. I'm interested in I want to fight tonight. Oh, thank God the thing is still there on your screen. I've not removed it. It means you are actually eating apple as you are joining this class. You are eating apple as you are joining this class. Huh? Secondary source. Madam Titi is here. Welcome, mommy. Rich movie is here. Good evening. Rich movie. Okay, that is well answered. But there is another question of interest. What do you think can stand alone and you can actually get something else from it? Like this thing, oh. Okay, let me give an example on my own side. I know that cassava is a primary source, but cassava can give birth to, things like gari. So gari is a secondary source, which was created from the primary source cassava. So give me another example of something that can create another thing. So we now call that child that was created a secondary source, and the one from which it was created the primary source. Yes, I'm so interested. I am so we're treating tonight warrants that you guys also discuss with me. Almighty reading. You have to contribute tonight. It's a discussion method. Somebody say palm kernel. Where? How do you come about palm kernel, or what is being made from palm kernel? I am interested in all I can learn tonight. Yes, let me turn it off, and I don't want my network to act up tonight. Okay, Talabi Esther, you won't just tell me crude oil palm kernel. You see, when I mentioned my own, I said from cassava we make gari. So I say cassava is the primary source, gari is the secondary source. So that is how you will tell me to. Don't just tell me crude oil. If you tell me crude oil, I'm confused. I don't know whether the crude oil is the secondary source or the primary source. Now, Rich Movie says palm kernel is the primary source, red oil is the secondary source. Okay, you would have used palm fruits, because if you use the kernel, I think that is what is inside that palm fruit, and that is not what they use for red oil. It is the shield, the one that is, clothing it, that is used. So if you are talking of maybe granite oil, or palm kernel oil, you can be talking of the kernel that is inside, or the kernel. And so yes, Joseph. Okay, Josephine, you are welcome. I am still waiting for contributors. I've seen one from palm kernel we made oil. Thank you. So palm kernel serves as the primary source of oil, which is the secondary source. That's awesome. I want the rest of you to talk. If you don't talk, this is how we'll be looking at each other. I have time. If you like, we will stay here till 12 a.m. I have time tonight. Okay, ori oil. All right. No, I think that ori oil is so block is the secondary source. That's reasonable. Okay, somebody said crude the primary source, why the secondary source of sources. We have petroleum, diesel. Thank you. Now that's making sense. I think some people are already getting the picture. I think I have up to 17 people online. Why are we not having chats? Is it because some people have not paid for membership, so they're unable to chat, or they are not just chatting? Francis now, Francis has woken up from the sleep. Primary source, trees. Secondary source, wood, pencil. Thank you. Now that's making sense, except that some people have not contributed, and that is annoying. You shouldn't be in the class without making any reasonable contribution. Everyone is expected to talk. Say your own. I love you. Talk your own. If it's that one now, you put your mouth to be open. You will shout on top your this thing. Oh, see my finger. Put the ring. If it's to come and propose to you now, the noise will be much. It's not to answer question in class now. I see some people saying now my screen is gone. Is that general or is only from her? Please, you guys should let me know. Let me stop it first and reshare it in case it's general. I think the network is having some. All right, so I think enough of that. So let me finish. So we'll be able to, of course, go serious about the explanation. We need to read it first and, of course, try to explain it. We read first and we will explain it. Okay, but I hope the screen is back now before I start reading. I need confirmation from you guys. Is my screen back? Are we good to go with the reading? While we are reading, I want you guys to be very, very attentive. You learn from both sides. You learn from our reading as much as you learn from my explanation. So there is none of the activity we are doing here that is useless. None of them is useless. So, okay, it's okay. All right, let's read, guys. Secondary sources of information are created from primary sources of information. The authors who serve as the creators of secondary sources did not have first-hand experience of the event being researched. Secondary sources give accounts of facts by describing, analyzing, interpreting, evaluating, commenting, or discussing evidence provided by primary sources. It is important to note that secondary sources are not evidence, but commentary on and discussion of evidence. So, well, examples of secondary sources of information include textbooks, okay, biographical works, commentaries, criticism, dictionaries, and histories. And of course, it is important to take note of how recent secondary sources of information are. That is wonderful. We have just done justice. We've done justice to the reading aspect. And I think we we can take the explanation now, since we've done justice to the reading. We can take the explanation now. Mm, Now, if we understand secondary sources very well, it's also very important we remember primary source. Primary source of information gives original first-hand information about anything, event, person, about a research or an institution. If you are researching about none, you know, maybe you want to know the reason why most non-students fail or come up with sorry, at the end of the day graduate with maybe top class. You've checked the, like, over the past 3 4 years, you've checked the graduation list and you're always saying pass, 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 and you're not wondering what is happening, why are they all coming up with pass, 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 pass. Are you sure this school is, you have some concern, you've seen the problem, you are interested in that problem, so you want to research on the problem. What is the solution to this problem? You understand? Or not really what is the solution yet. Yes, you prefer solution, but you are much more interested in why are they failing? What is the factor? But when you are researching, you must not be biased. You can't put your own emotion into it that I know. Is it not because they don't used to do facilitation very well? When you are researching, you're on a neutral ground. You allow the research to speak for itself. You are not going to be sentimental. You say, or you are be stereotyping and saying, I know, non-student, student, you guys are working, they don't have time. No, you allow the research to take place on its own. So if you are that kind of person researching on that kind of topic, you are a primary source. Once you are done with that research, your product that you bring out to say, okay, at the end of this research, your abstract, the work, the research project that you will submit is the primary source, because you took the research yourself. You are the first hand informer. You are the original owner of that project. Now, imagine you release that kind of project. Then I read it, and I'm kind of saying, I noticed some kind of biases in your project, because you mentioned, now I'm trying to criticize your work. You understand? That you, okay, look at what you guys are doing in the mass communication group. The new okay, I think we were doing it before, we stopped it, now we resumed it. That I'll ask you guys, to act something in less than 1 minute, just 60 seconds, and post it. in the group there, then you are the original source. You are the primary source of that video, that recording. You are the primary source. When I'm criticizing it, I'm saying, well, you did well in this aspect. This aspect is not good. This one is this one is that. What is happening? Whatever I'm saying there about that video is a secondary source, secondary information about the video. The same way, if your project, if I'm reading it and I kind of feel like, no, I want to comment on this place. My comment on this part of the project is that go and check your figures very well. You said that you did the research on 2 million students. That's the total population of none. Whereas currently, none is only having maybe 1,300,000 students. So how, when I'm criticizing you like that, my own criticism becomes a secondary source. So a secondary source takes that original information and explains it, analyze it, interpret it, evaluate it, or discuss it. So when I pick out the work that you have done, and I say, Omo Yasuno posted something on his TikTok, and then I watched it. See, I noticed this thing you people have been doing. It's not correct. This is the correct order. Well, based on my own experience research, I think, when I start criticizing in the comment, what I am actually doing is a secondary source. My own explanation of what Omo Yasuno is doing in his video is the original source of the video, is the owner. So he is the primary. I become the secondary source by criticizing it. So when you criticize a material, you read a book and you're not agreeing with what the book is saying, you have a lot of things to say counterwise what the book is providing as information. Then your criticism qualifies as a secondary source. And then in the form of summary, primary source, original information; secondary source, an explanation of the original information. Now, let's look at it this way. A secondary source is information produced by someone who did not directly experience or participate in the original event, but used existing primary information from that event to explain or discuss the event. Those of you that are amebos, that you like doing cho, did you hear that? Did you hear that Dora and Big Eva, they've broken up? So you don't attend class when Sam Data was saying it. Hey, my sister, let me tell you. And wait, but what really caused that breakup? Because the thing really affected Big Eva. We are not even seeing him in class again. You did not hear. They did not tell you. Let me tell you something. Even that time they say they are dating. It's a lie. They are just doing internet dating. Now, when you are doing all those cho, you are actually carrying secondary source of information around. You are doing, whatever you are doing then is secondary source. Dora and Big Eva's marriage is the primary event. They are the owner of their event. They are the one married or dating. So your own cho is secondary source. That's an example. I think you understand that one better. Now let's imagine that we have a football match between Nigeria and Ghana, for example. And then let's say Omo Yasuno traveled to Ghana for the match. So everything that happened in the match, he witnessed it. When he comes back to Nigeria, if you write Nigeria scored their second goal at 30 minutes, or in the 30th or 30th minute of the match, for instance, that information you wrote down is a primary source. You were there. You were witnessing it. Now, assuming we have one of your friends that is a sport analyst, and then the next day when you return to Nigeria, your friend, looking at the information you've written down, went to the media and started publishing that Nigeria won because it made midfielder control possession effectively, blah blah blah. That goal at 30th minute, there was an issue with it. Can you call? No, I'm saying that person is a secondary source. I believe you guys understand secondary source. Now we don't need to stress it much. You see, the reason why I'm taking my time on this course is that you will all write final year projects. no matter what you are doing, what you are studying, you end up this your 4 years with a final year project. The understanding you have now will go a long way in helping you to write that. Well, I don't even want some of you to attend this class. I'm happy that you are not much. At least the rest of you that do not attend, when you reach your 400 level, maybe you bring your project to me to write for you, and I will chop your 50,000. It's sweet. So that is that on secondary source. Let's read on tertiary sources of information. There is a tendency of a confusion between secondary and tertiary sources of information, but I will try to use illustration as much as possible so that you will see the clear difference between the two. It's very, very easy for you to mix things up. Now, but it will not make sense if we actually talk about this secondary source we are talking about without giving examples in the material. The material stated that we have secondary sources of information as textbook, you know. mm, this question is in TMA. I only don't know if, because I have noticed over the years that they have two sets of TMAs that they used to ask in this course. That we have some years that they will ask one particular type of an icebreaker. Since no one want to comment, I have an icebreaker. So I'll wait patiently for you guys to make comments on the icebreaker while we go to tertiary sources of information. The tertiary sources of information, that's not so much. But while you are doing that, let me quickly explain some of the examples given there. They said textbooks are examples of secondary sources. Now, textbook usually brings together different information from different researches, and explain it to the readers, that is to the student taking the course. Now, for example, this GST104 course material that we are doing, it discusses everything about library, concept of library, using the knowledge that the library can provide, and then it becomes an educational text in the secondary source. So that is the idea of textbook. Now, for biographical works, let's say, for example, if somebody is trying to research into the life of maybe Wole Soyinka or Chinua Achebe in order to write about them, the writer may use things like letters from Chinua Achebe or Wole Soyinka. The person may use interviews from them, photographs from them, like the speeches they've made before. The person may quote them in different aspects of that biography. Maybe their favorite quote, there was a particular speech they made some time ago that it's a memorable event, something like that. Even personal document about them. So that is the way biographical work suit as an example for secondary source. So all of those things you gather about them are actually primary sources. But when you compile them together, modify them, turn them into a biography, then you produce a secondary source. They also talk about commentaries. Now, a commentary explains or discusses another person's work or event. For example, if you read a famous speech, the original speech you read about is actually the primary source. Now, if you are a scholar and you write an article explaining what that speech meant, your own explanation becomes a secondary source. That is commentary. You are commenting on someone else's post. Now, another thing is criticism. Imagine you read a novel, for instance. The novel itself is a primary source. Let us say a professor says the author's use of symbolism, like after you finish reading the novel, then you said about the novel, if you said this, that the author's use of symbolism represent the conflict between tradition and modernity. That is a critical analysis of that novel that you finished reading, and that it's a secondary source. That's why criticism is a second. I'll give you an example of criticism. What of dictionaries? Dictionaries compile different origins of words, meanings, different sources of information. That is why a dictionary is a secondary source. And they talk about history books. Okay, let's assume that we have a soldier that participated in the war, and during the war he wrote some diaries, some things in his diary, and that soldier's diary is an original the primary source. But if we later have like maybe 10, 15, 20 years after the incident, after the war, let's say maybe we have an historian, somebody that studied history, now try to write about the war then, and then uses references to the soldier's note, then the book you write about maybe the history of war or anything, that history of war is a secondary source of information in that. Mm, so let's go to tertiary sources of information. And the first thing, as usual, we'll read it. Now, okay, somebody asked a question. Sorry, my mind wasn't there. Tertiary sources of information act as pointers to primary and secondary sources. In fact, tertiary sources are dash. Grace answer say, I'm interested in testing you on this. Let's try to answer that. So, in fact, the tertiary sources of information are: one, works that list primary and secondary resources in a specific area. Put your mind on this, because you are likely going to be confused between secondary and tertiary sources of information. But let's get it clear from now. Works which index, organize, and compile citations to secondary sources. Examples of tertiary sources include chronologies, bibliographies, indexes, encyclopedias, and directories. Now, it's very easy for you to mix things up. But let's try to explain the little we can on tertiary sources. I want you guys to follow my explanation carefully. So it's only 3 people that we have online now. Well, that is not bad. That is not bad. That is not bad. You people should continue. Thank God you are paying. If it's free now, I would have gotten tired and say I'm not doing it again. So, tertiary sources of information. They said the first thing you should remember about them is that they are pointers between the other two we've mentioned, primary and secondary. Okay. If you are not careful, you'll be very confused in tertiary sources of information. Please open your mind now and learn this. A tertiary source mainly helps you to locate, identify, organize, or obtain information from primary or secondary source. I believe my explanation is getting clearer. A tertiary source it helps you to locate, identify, organize, or obtain information from primary and secondary source. Now, think of tertiary source. Let's assume now that the tertiary source is a map that directs you to information. What is on the map is different location, different. The locations are not location or maybe the map of Africa. No, the map of information. If you need this information, go to this directory. If you need this information, go to visit this place. So tertiary source is a pointer. Is like a map, but on that map, you will see different sources of information. So if you are looking for information about gossip. If the topic is gossip, the tertiary source will show you how many points, how many available location, resources that you can fetch in order to get notes, books, materials, resources on gossip. Now, let's assume you enter a very big library. You remember from the beginning of this course, we've talked about the meaning of the library. I will look at the description. As a matter of fact, I showed you guys the National Library that day in image. Now, let's assume you enter a library that contains 500,000 books. For instance, in that library, they have 500,000 books. Then you are looking for information on, let's say, the reading habit of ODS students. That is the reading habit of open distance learner students. Now, 500,000 books. Will you start working from one shelf to another looking for ODL? That means you spend how many weeks looking for only, like you are still searching for weeks. You'll be visiting the library every day. If you like spend 24 hours there, you will find out that you will not exhaust all the shelves while you are still looking for ODL. If that is the method you want to use, you are looking for everything that I talk about. So you are now looking at titles. ODL, no, it's not this one. ODL, no, it's not this one. ODL, no. How many days, weeks, months will you use in looking for that information? Why? Because there are a lot of books on different subject matters. So you will need something that tells you that these are books or articles or materials that are relating to this subject or to the subject you are looking for. And this is where you can find it or find them. That is what tertiary source does. Now, for example, they said bibliographies. A bibliography, like you will learn, I don't know if we have mentioned that when we're talking about the history of the library of a thing. A bibliography is a list of books, articles, or any material relating to a subject or used in preparing a work. So imagine you are researching, for instance, on effect of social media on student performance. You find bibliography containing things like Grace Anazo 2024, social media and education. Omoyasuna 2025, digital communication among university students. Francis Azianka, student learning in the digital age. Dora Ami 2024. So that you see, that is bibliography. Those ones are already, there are a list of books or material that are related to the subject that you are trying to prepare or work on. So the bibliography won't necessarily give you the complete information you need, that are in those books, but it will tell you these sources exist. That means we have these sources. So go and consult them. We have these sources. It's going to tell you we have these sources, so go and consult them. So bibliography qualifies to be a tertiary source of information. It's a pointer. Now, when you want to research, you are looking for any type of source, whether primary or secondary. You shall need resources. So the tertiary will now stand as a pointer. Okay, this one we have this book, and they are related to your topic. That is bibliography. So, and there is this question in TMA that talks about the bibliography. Let me read it to you again. That a bibliography is a list of books or articles or any other material relating to a subject or used in preparing a work, maybe a research work or anything. So I want to test you guys. I'm explaining each of the examples given now under tertiary sources, and that is what we are doing. And that is why we'll stop tonight, because we have tried. Now, the next thing we'll talk about is indexes. You might not understand what indexes mean before, but you will learn it today. We use indexes. An index helps you to locate information. You must have seen it before. At least once or twice you've opened a book in your life. I know some of you don't used to read book in your life, but at least one time, maybe by accident, you not like it's a mistake. You were not intending to open it, but you shall open one book in your life. And when you've opened a book, you find out that we have something like, they will say, let's say they say agriculture dash 24,57, communication dash 35,64, education dash 16,12. That means the pages where you can find them. Library information dash 10,20. You've seen it before. It's even on this material, I think. Now suppose you need information about education. Instead of reading the entire 150 pages here in this our material, let me give you an example using this our course material. Let's go there, so that it's from the sky. I'm very sure that's an example, but that is really not what do you. Oh, this material is not having, this one just have table of content. But you see in this table of content, I think in this unit 1, after this unit 1 types of library, then you see dot in the front, and then eventually they wrote page 15, or they just wrote 15. When you want to read about types of library, you don't need to start scrolling. You just go to page 15, because you know that types of library is on page. That is the work of index. That is what an index helps you to do. It gives you the direct location of information in that particular book you are reading. It gives you the direct location of information in that particular book you are reading. So that is the work of index. Instead of me scrolling to how many pages of uh you know instruction, I just go straight to where my information is located, or what I am actually looking for is located. Now, so an index literally tells you where to find an information. Don't forget the difference between bibliography and index. Bibliography tells you this information, we have it, it exists, and it is on this book. It exists, we have it, and it is on this book. We say that one is like a map. But indexes will show you the exact place you can find it. Then another example mentioned on tertiary encyclopedias. Now, this encyclopedias, now what's the work? What does it do? How is it being used as a tertiary source? Well, before that, I have a very short question to test you. I have informed you that an index helps you to locate information. So I have an icebreaker for your perusal. So please let's attend to that question. Now, to encyclopedias. An encyclopedia provides organized summaries or overviews of knowledge on different subjects and can direct readers towards further information. An encyclopedia provides organized summaries, encyclopedia summaries, or an overview of knowledge on different subjects and can direct readers toward further information. Now I think even saying that, some of you still don't understand what we are saying. But let's look and use an illustration so that you understand better. Let's say, for instance, you don't know anything about the word photosynthesis. For instance, let me use the word photosynthesis, and you don't know anything. Well, maybe you've had it in primary school, you still don't understand. So you don't know anything about photosynthesis. Okay, let me test you guys tonight. Kindly spell photosynthesis in the chat box. Let's do some drilling tonight. I know some of you are very good in spelling. Let's see you. Let me see you now. If you like, go and copy from AI. Your phone will lock it to not open again. If you cheat on this question, spell photosynthesis in the chat box. But anybody that go and cheat, you ask AI, you check dictionary, you check Google, your phone will stop working. No. Dora said photosynthesis. Okay. Sadiq Mariam, photosynthesis. The same with all of you are copying and paste. Copy and paste for Dora. As Yanka said, photosynthesis. Okay, the first time you were asked this spelling before, when you were in primary school doing agriculture, then agricultural science, how did you spell it? How did you spell your first attempt of photosynthesis in the first time you ever tried to spell photosynthesis? How did you spell it? I want to laugh a bit tonight. Now, while you are doing that, let's move to. So, assuming you don't know anything about the word photosynthesis, you might need to consult an encyclopedia first to get a general overview before proceeding to specialized textbooks and journal articles. The encyclopedia will give you general overview of the subject. That is why they serve as tertiary source, because they serve as pointer to different subject matter. I do not agree with you. I know the first time they asked you to spell it, you said FOTO photosynthesis thesis thesis TASIS. That is how you spelled it. Thank you for look at it. Talabi Esther did not lie. See her own now. Photosynthesis. Is it not correct? Is it not English that want to blow her head? Why would they even say that is how to spell it? Now look at this Talabi Esther. He's looking sexy. Photosynthesis. And is it correct? That is the same pronunciation. Look at Francisca now. Yes, Asianka. Photosynthesis. And yes, you're correct. We need to argue a lot with English because we don't know how they come up with some of those that their class. Some of those their words that we do not agree with. They need to allow us to form our own spellings, the way we feel like something should be spelled. Grace says that I am not noticing her. Sorry, Grace. So my attention is divided and I notice everybody. Maybe messages are just overshadowing yours. Or when did you mention your own? Oh, sorry, yours came late. It was Sadiq Mariam's one I saw immediately after Dora. But now I'm not seeing that your own drop after Dora. That means it's landed late. Sorry about that. I noticed everybody. Now, another thing that was mentioned in the examples of tertiary, sources is chronologies. Chronologies. What is the meaning of chronology? I know you've heard that word several times. A chronology is an arrangement of events according to the order in which they occurred, the time in which they occurred. If you are given a chronological event now, you start from the very beginning, then the next thing that happened, followed by the next thing that happened the next year, the next thing that happened the following year. So it's an orderly arrangement of events in order of their occurrence. But before we go to that, let me ask you a very simple question on sorry, I think I mixed one. We're supposed to talk about directories. We haven't talked about directories. We'll just talk about encyclopedia. Okay, I have an icebreaker under encyclopedia before we move to directories. They talked about directories too. Sorry, I'm taking your time a lot tonight. I'm so sorry. We'll soon end the class, very soon. We'll soon end the class. But all these are necessary because you soon start writing research. I want to start giving some of you some research work. I will start training some of you now. I have a lot of projects I do every semester. I'll give some of you some project work. Go and do research. You to start learning. By the time you get to your 300 level, you start making money from projects too. There is school money in project. Okay, we have Lagos. Lagos State says chronology. No, that's not correct. Even Francis said it's chronologies. No, that is encyclopedia. Dora seems to be correct. Yes, and encyclopedia provides organized summaries. That was why I was stressing the word summary, summary, summary when I was teaching you guys encyclopedia, because I want you to remember the word summary. That will help you to note when they ask you, you know that this is encyclopedia. Well, that is not something they will ask you in the exam. I'm just using this to explain it to you. Now, directories. A directory contains organized information that helps you to locate people, organizations, institutions, or services. A direct, just like the word directory, directories, it directs you. It's a director. It directs you to locate people, organization, institution, or services. For example, if a directory says university A, then that directory will also put address of that university, telephone of that university, email of that university. That is a directory. So you are not reading the analysis of the university, or you are not analyzing the university. You only have an information about the university, like the name of the university, the address of the university, the telephone of the university, and the email of the university. That is what directories does. So that is why directory is what? A pointer. So it serves as a pointer between primary and secondary source, because most of those information, they are primary information about the institution. So it tells you about people, about organizations, about institutions, and so on. That is a directory. It's very simple. Now we'll go to chronologies. I've mentioned chronology before. I've I think you guys have an idea now. When you are trying to report something in order of their occurrence, in an orderly manner, but in order of their occurrence. So I have another icebreaker to help us understand what we just finished doing, while we go to chronologies. Now for chronologies, talking about the example chronology. This is where I am now. Chronologies. Let's take example. Since we already know that for chronology, it means the arrangement of events in an orderly manner, in the pattern in which they occurred, in the order in which they occurred. If, for instance, we say that in 1960, Nigeria gained independence. Then in 1963, Nigeria became a republic. Then in 1999, Nigeria returned to democratic rule. Civilian democratic rule in 1999. What are you doing? You are arranging events in Nigeria in an orderly manner, in the order in which they occurred, starting with the least or the farthest to the nearest. So it provides an organized timeline that allows people to quickly see what happened and when. That is what chronologies does. That is what chronologies does. Provides a timeline. It's a chronology is an arrangement, or it arranges events according to the order in which they occurred. That is a chronology. Now I'm going to give you one last tip tonight and we'll close. And that last tip is a tip that helps you to understand the three sources of information properly and clearly. What is that tip I am talking about? Watch out. Now, let me say yesterday there was a protest at the university headquarters, that is in Abuja here. Then you as a student, you were there. You were there physically, not online. You were there. And you recorded a video during the protest. That video on your phone that you recorded is a primary source. You capture the event directly. Then you posted the video online. A researcher watches the video, you know, then interviews people that were there, reads the reports that were made by people. Then the researcher wrote an article on the event and says causes and effects of a recent student protest in National Open University of Nigeria, Abuja. The analysis that the researcher did on that your video and other things he consulted is secondary source. That is analysis. That is own article is a secondary source to your protest, to your video. Now, let's assume somebody decide to, maybe in our library in Abuja, someone decide to create a database or an index list of events that happened on the 9th of August 2026. Then among the list of items there on the book, the person wrote, for information about the protest, see page 15, articles 7 and sorry, article sorry, see page, or maybe the person says, for information about this protest or about the protest, see these 15 articles, 7 reports, and 4 books. Which means only on that protest that happened yesterday, we have people that have written articles, 15 of them. 15 of them have written articles. Seven wrote reports, and we have 4 books that came out of it. That one, that information that say for information about protest, see these 15 articles, that one is tertiary information. That is a pointer. That is a pointer. So I experienced it, primary source. I analyzed it, secondary source. I will help you find or organize information about it, tertiary source. So that is one way to remember each of them. That is one way to remember each of them. And I will try to even make it a bit shorter. Primary source is evidence. Secondary source is analysis. Tertiary source is pointer. If you have grabbed all these, you have successfully attended tonight's class. You have successfully attended tonight's class. So when you see any information, you can easily relate to it and say, this is a primary source, this is a secondary source. Thank you, guys. Now, do we have anybody with any concern? Do we have with any concern? This is a question they used to ask in TMA. So let me ask you again here. I want to ask you that same question here. What is the answer to the question displayed on the screen? Which of the following are examples of chronologies, bibliographies, indexes, encyclopedias, and directories? Primary sources of information, secondary sources of information, tertiary sources of information, electronic sources of information. Which of the following are examples of chronologies, bibliographies, indexes, encyclopedia, and directories? What is the answer to the question? Okay, tertiary sources of information. I think it's only Dora I have left online. Well, thank you for staying to the end, Dora. Now, we have moved a lot in this course. In the next class, our concern will be, I have concluded already and I've summarized. We have some links at the end of that class. We are not going to be using links yet. When we enter research literature review, we will look we are going to visit some links and you see some things on how to do research. Now that you've understood how to source information, like the type of information that exists, the primary, the secondary, the tertiary, and which type of information falls under each of them, the next thing you want to learn as a researcher is how to do literature review. This is going to be an interesting part of this course, and I hope you guys don't miss it in the next class. Well, do enjoy the rest of your evening. That brings us to the end of the class tonight.